In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you a little bit of some of the effects you can use to do color correction in Premiere Pro. If you've been in the class, we would have talked a little bit about color theory and the different balancing colors. And that's just, color correction is actually a huge type of effect that you can do multiple ways. You can do it in Premiere Pro, you can do it in other programs, Photoshop and After Effects, but I'm going to show you some quick tricks on how to do it in Premiere Pro with video. So in particular today I'm going to show you how to get from an original video that looks like this on the left side, where it's kind of a bluish green tinge of the New York skyline, and actually I don't even know if it's New York, but just of a city skyline, and how you can get it to become something like this, where it looks a little bit more sunny, more warm toned color to one video. And I can also teach you how to do something to get a video that's quite saturated, quite nice color, to more of a washed out look, which is nice because if you want to do things like flashback scenes, or you want to do a particular scene that looks a little dated, then you can use some effects to make it look like that. And we're also going to be looking at how you can just also play around with something called RGB curves, red, green, blue curves, to adjust the color of certain things. So this was the original clip, and then you were going to make it look like this. Okay, so first of all, you go ahead and start a new sequence. You can do that. Go ahead and start one to show you how we're going to do this. With the first video, you can find these three videos in, again, the M Drive, Special Projects, Media Production, Media Resources. I'm going to put them in a folder under Stock Video. I'll put them in a separate folder for you. So there's three files. Once you copy those files and put them into your own project folder on your hard drive, then you can import them into your project and have them ready to go. I'm going to drag my first video of the city, change sequence time settings, onto the timeline. And here we have this video is quite, bluish tinged green. We're going to go to Effects, and under Effects there's an entire folder under Video Effects called Color Correction, and there's multiple different things that you can do with color correction. The first one I'm going to teach you is very simple, probably the most basic. It's something called Fast Color Corrector. If you drag and drop that effect on top of the video and go to Effect Controls, you're going to see something that looks like this, and this is essentially why it's called the Fast Color Corrector, because it gives you the color wheel, and the color wheel is nice because you get to see the balancing color. So for example, if there's a lot of blue tint in the video, then you know that the opposite of it would be to add some orange. If there's a lot of green tint in it, you know that you want to add some magenta. So here, because our video is kind of sitting along the borders of blue-green, I want to go ahead and add a little bit more of orange to balance out the color. So you just take your mouse and click it once, and that's a lot that made it really red, but you can start dragging it around and you can see that my video changes. I can make it more green if I bring it around to this side, but I'm going to make it more orangey, and the more intense you want the color correction to be, you can drag it out further so it becomes really orange, or you can kind of drag it inwards and make it less of an effect. So that's the Fast Color Corrector. And here, there's other things you can test out, like white balance. If you make a mistake and you want to go back to the original text, the original video, there's two ways to do it. You can either delete the entire effect and it will go back, or you can press that reset button on there. Okay, so that is the Fast Color Corrector. I'll go back and do that. Okay, so go ahead and try that one. The next one that you can go ahead and try is the strawberries. It's quite a nice color here. I'm going to drag it to my timeline. But say if I wanted to play around with something like the tint. I'm going to use this effect here, and I'm going to drag it and drop it on top here. That's made it almost black and white. But if we go to effects, we can change the amount to tint. So I'm going to drag it down just a little bit to maybe 80. And here you've seen it's taken away some of the brightness of the colors and it's washed it a bit. And this is a nice effect if you want to create something like flashback scenes or dreamlike sequences. The last type of thing that you can play around with is, I have this video of cash flying around. You can drag it to your timeline and drop it. And if you see, the colors are quite bright here with the green and the grays. I'm going to do something where I bring up some of the other colors, and I'm going to use something called the RGB curves. So if I have if you go here, there's RGB color corrector, RGB curves. Let's play around with curves. It's something a little bit different. And curves basically mean it's similar to the color corrector, but you're able to control in a different way the colors that appear in the video. So again, if you look at color theory, you'd look at the opposite color. This video has a lot of greens in it, so the opposite of greens would be reds. So say if I start bringing in a bit more red tone to the video, I'm going to drag this line up, and this is where you can, it's all about playing around. I can put in a little bit more of a red tint to it, or I can drag it and make it even more green if I wanted to. And certain videos, if you watch TV shows and movies, oftentimes the director and editor will use color correction as a main way to make their film distinctive. So certain shows like CSI, Miami, they have a very distinct color tint to the other type of CSI shows where it's more of a bluish tint. So here are just some of the things in color correction that you can play around with in this tutorial.